Alright, so today we're going to take a look at an upcoming MMORPG set to release sometime in 2019. The game is called Astellia, and this game kind of came out of nowhere. They were just at PAX answering questions and showing off a game, and I believe right now we have a rough timeline of summer of 2019 is when it's meant to be released. And in this video, we're going to be touching on what is Astellia, what is unique about the game, some red flags, as well as some thoughts. And these are first-hand thoughts, actually, as you're going to see throughout the video. This is my own footage that I captured while playing the Korean version of the game. So let's start out with what is Astellia. It's a pretty standard theme park MMORPG. Combat is done through tab target with a skill bar full of different abilities. You have a large world that you'll quest in with different locations with different biomes and environments. There are instanced dungeons and PvP areas. You have a story told through throwaway quests and cutscenes that lead to a level cap where you grind out harder difficulties of all of that old content to get stronger. It employs the Holy Trinity for group play and has 5 basic classes at this point: the warrior, the ranger, the assassin, the scholar, and the mage, with a decent system for customizing a build, as well as being able to power up specific abilities that you like, as well as a fan favorite of advanced classes, where you say you're a mage, you get to level cap, you can choose between, say, a sorcerer or a wizard. Now, outside of the namesake system, the Estelle system, which we'll touch on in a second, nothing really is going to surprise you about this game unless you haven't played an MMORPG in the last decade. Now, a couple of notes. For PvE, I do not believe raids are in the cards for the future. Instead, they're going to focus on solo and group dungeons with different difficulty options. For PvP, I don't remember them having any type of battleground or objective-styled game mode. Instead, it's solo and group arenas, as well as a tri-faction map that players fight over for once a week. And I believe that this technically exists out in the world as opposed to its own instanced match. And in Korea, the classes are rather rigid and gender-locked in their appearance, which I know some people don't like, although there has been a promise made through multiple different interviews that 2 of the classes will have male-female options for our release. Now, Astellia was released in Korea at the tail end of 2018, so just a few months ago, and Barunson E&A are the publishers, and I've actually never heard of these people before, but they're the publishers that are going to be dealing with the localization and the westernization of the game. Now, aside from the gender lock issue, the only real changes we know that are coming to it is that it will be buy to play here, they will have a cash shop in addition, but they are saying that they're against pay to win, and that they'll tweak progression or specifics of the game for our audience. So there's no big sweeping promises like we're going to revamp the combat system and add 7 classes. That stuff's not happening here. So what is unique about Astellia? And that's obviously the Estelles. There are over 30 of these Estelles, and in one way, they're kind of like combat pets. You can summon one out permanently, and they'll have their own unique appearance, their own unique abilities, stats. They can be upgraded, equipped with different stat-enhancing crystals. They also have a grading scheme. They'll also have kind of a role to them, so think tank, healer, mage, DPS, etc., which will let me, as a scholar, a healing class, be able to quest viably solo or hold my own in PvP by bringing out a damage-dealing Estelle. Or if I was an assassin, I might bring out an Estelle that heals to help me minimize downtime. You also have a resource for summoning these Estelles as well as maintaining them being out, and this is really important because you can actually summon up to 3 at a time, but the resource will then just deplete faster. And so you probably only have 5 to 10 seconds with 3 Estelles out and only a couple of minutes with 2 out, and there are some skills and consumables that mess with that a bit, but typically you'll have 1 permanent and you'll summon another or 2 others depending on the situation. And this adds a weird dynamic to combat because instead of having a traditional DPS cooldown ability, you now just summon a temporary DPS Estelle, and maybe you choose one if you're just trying to do single target damage, or a different one if you're trying to deal with an AoE. Instead of having an oh shit or a defensive cooldown, you might summon a tank who takes off the pressure if you're getting swarmed by smaller monsters. And you're free to swap between different Estelles in combat from a deck, which is just a skill bar that you've pre-populated with your Estelles from before you enter combat. And I'm just kind of really scratching the surface here because even the individual skills that these Estelles have, or the skills that you can force them to trigger, like debuffs and crowd controls, or the passive bonuses they can give you, or how to, or the makeup of the decks that you use, it just adds way more layers to this. And this is on top of your class having their own fully functional class kit. It's deceivingly complex, And in all facets of the game, the Estelles are present. So even if you're PvPing or running around in a 4-player dungeon, it can get pretty crowded, and that's actually why I think they've avoided raids or large party instances. So what are the red flags? The biggest issue is the use of Unreal Engine 3 and mainly the performance concerns that come along with it. Outside of anything instanced, the stuttering, the freezes, the frame drops, it can get really bad. And this is kind of the stigma that the Unreal Engine has at this point, Unreal Engine 3 has at this point. In addition to this, the game actually is quite stunning certain times. The backgrounds, stuff from a distance is just like, ooh, like this looks good. But then everything that can kind of move or you interact with or you see more closely, it looks really dated. And in a lot of cases, the stuff doesn't even feel like it should be in its own world, which is very weird. We've also heard many times companies pledge no pay to win. And I mean, this is just, there's no way they're not going to say that. And I'm wary because there's already things in Astellia like dungeon tickets, or even just the Estelle system itself essentially being an entire mobile games gacha system injected into an MMORPG is just so well suited for aggressive monetization and would require some incredibly large changes to both the reward and the progression structure to not be garbage that I need to see it before I believe it. Now, my thoughts on the game as a whole. Astellia was a trip to play because whenever you bring up another Korean MMORPG, there are a lot of people who automatically assign things to it. You know, oh, it's going to have an enhancement system, it's going to have punishing RNG, gender locks, pointless grinds, etc. And real talk, Astellia has all of that, but it goes a step further than that. If you've been on my YouTube channel for a while, it's not rare for me to play Eastern games. I'm going to bring up Bless because more people know about it, but that's not the extent of games that I could mention if you were more familiar with Eastern games. Astellia plays like a reskinned Bless almost entirely. Not the assets or specific things like the classes, but the entire feel, the rigid nature of casting, the movement, the way ability queues function, the interface, interacting with the game, phased areas. Like the Estelle system and the pet system from Bless could easily have been made from the same template. The type and implementation of the different pieces of content in these games are the same, and it's not that you can do the same things. It's that I honestly think under the hood, they're coded the same, and that's why they feel the same when you utilize them. Because it's not the same way as if a game was trying to emulate Bless and say, they did this, so let's do that ourselves. I don't want to call it a copy, I don't want to call it an asset flip. It's like playing another game made with the same template, with the same starting kit, with the same make your own MMORPG. I mean, some of you guys might be familiar with RPG Maker, which is a rather limited engine that lets you make an RPG regardless of your programming or development experience. And there are tons and tons of RPG Maker games that have been created. Some were actually really good, like To the Moon or Skyborn, but most can't break through that feel of an RPG Maker game. And what happens is that people can see an RPG Maker game and know it's not for them because the template shines through. Engines like this exist all across gaming, but the thing is that they're hidden and it doesn't feel like you're playing a template. But that's how Astellia feels. The seams of the engine aren't hidden well enough. And also there are features in the game that typically you might go, oh, it's just like an afterthought, like they have crafting. But it's not that it's underdeveloped or poorly implemented, it just feels like a placeholder, like it has no connection or functionality to anything, that it's sitting there waiting to be touched. It's like they just kept it in because they wanted to check the box of, do we have crafting? Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see tooltips saying lorem ipsum throughout this game. Now, what I find interesting is that I don't know if Astellia will pick up traction as it gets closer to release. I imagine they'll reach out to some YouTubers and streamers, and for the same reasons as people cared about Bless last year, they might be interested in Astellia this year. Reasons separate from the game itself, just wanting something new to play and the appeal of a game trying to market no pay to win. And look, I don't know the publisher, and this is one of their first projects, I believe, for the West, so let's say I give them the benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong and they go hardline, no pay to win. Is that enough of a draw? I have no idea. The MMORPG audience is strange, and that could be. It's not enough for me, so I'll just end it here with, this is as generic and janky as it looks, and I cannot see myself playing this at all, but I'm interested to see how it ends up getting received. Anyway, that'll do it for me. Until next time, this is Fevir. Peace.